Well, it's time for another release notes video. This one will be kind of short because it's really just a urgent bug fix release with a couple of interesting additions as well. If you've been following along in the first couple releases of 2025, you know that there is this thing called the ISPC um, code that was put in the first two versions, primarily for Mac and Linux. Well, we've implemented it now on the Windows side of things. So ideally, you're not having to do anything, but you should be getting a performance boost of 10 to 25%. And for those geeks out there that want to do any reading on it, this is what it's all about. Intel Implicit SPMND Program Compiler. Basically, it's just a little extension to C++ that will run certain pieces of code in parallel. So what Dan has done is took out a few pieces of code that is very beneficial to something like this and put it in the ISPC dialect. And in this release of 2025-03, we've turned on the switches to make that happen in the Windows side of things. So to give it a whirl, you shouldn't have to do anything to see the improvements, obviously. You have to be running somewhat recent Windows hardware, anything in the last 15 years or so. So we shouldn't have any issues with people running running into any problems with that. Anyway, let's go to the bottom here, and a lot of this thing is relating to the ISPC stuff. So Dan has fixed an issue that was brought up right at the end there by Pierre, saying there was a slight tweak in the rendering of the canvas mode. It was just really an edge case, so he's fixed that. I put in a fix for the shader UI. So what that means is I'll just create a quick sequence. Basically, what was happening was if you had a shader, I'm not sure if I can duplicate it here, but I'll talk through what it is. When you have a shader, it has a number of effects, or not effects, but properties for it. So let me just choose a shader here. You could, of course, do a download, but I'll just choose an existing one. Well, that one's got a couple of properties, mouse X, mouse Y. What was happening is when you coded over and you updated it and then came back to a shader, you would lose those properties. So what's happening now is if you go and choose, black cherry again, you're going to get the properties back. So there was a bug there where you wouldn't see the properties, just a small bug. This is related to the ISPC code. So there was just a couple of glitches when he transferred the code from normal C++ to ISPC code. So there was a couple of gotchas there, little edge cases that were missed. That was corrected early. And this is on import mappings. Basically, it was saying that if a vendor sequence called it capital ABC, and I'll just type it in here, capital spinner, and then the next sequence the vendor put out, they changed the models and it was lowercase spinner, it wouldn't map over properly. So we're just taking out the case sensitivity so that these would map when you're loading mappings and restoring your maps. So not worth showing you that case, but that's really what it did. Alex has added the ability to trim audio. So normally we'd have you go out to Audacity to change your audio, but he added a feature here under sequence settings. He's got the pre and the post. It's in milliseconds, whereas before it was you can only add. Well, now you can actually subtract. So if you want to take 3,000, so 3 seconds off the front of your audio, you can just put in a 3,000. Of course, it has to be a media here. You have to have a song selected. You would click this and it would create a new file with a unique name, and it will tell you that in the pop-up. That would be 3 seconds taken off the front. So now you don't have to go to Audacity anymore to do that sort of thing. You can do it right here in xLights. No extra software is needed, just xLights because we've already got the libraries installed to do those sorts of things. Um, I've added some code again, ISPC, to help out on the video effect. So if you have a video effect and video effect, drop it on. Let me just put that back up there. I'm going to switch over to matrices using my views. Here we go. And then I can drop a video effect here and go there, make it a little wider, click on browse, go to Videos, maybe. Do I got videos? Imported media, Louis, video, this guy here, click open. This code now is using the ISPC code, so it's able to do things in about 10 to 20% faster um, than it was before. So that code's in there. And by the way, there was a bug that was fixed in this release, and I think I just sort of quickly went over it, skipped over it, was the brightness bug. So if you had in the past, if you had a video here and in the color palette, if it was anything other than 100, it would not render. So what we were finding is that, oh, look at that. Oh, guess that sort of makes sense. It wouldn't. This might be interesting. It's just Okay, in that case, it is doing what it's said to do. If you set it up to 400, it's just basically washing it all out. But before, it wouldn't even render anything. So now you have it doing exactly what it's supposed to do. As you crank up the brightness, it's going to wash it out. But it wouldn't even render anything before. So that's the correct results now. Um, this one here, allow for more than 48 strings. Because on a controller here, and I have a sample controller, click on visualize. Before we used to think an F48 from Falcon used to be as many ports as you could possibly have for a prop. Well, that's not really the case anymore because you have smart receivers that have up to 6 receivers, and you could have literally, 20 ports of 6. So you could even go higher than this, but we've set the maximum now to 100 um, ports. So if you right click here, you can switch it. I'll just for the sake of, I'll just set it to 50. And it'll not only will it set it to 50, but it's correctly calculating the pixels that would evenly divide if you were to have 50. Before there was an issue with how it calculated that. So not only can you go more than 48, but it also handles the correct number of pixels to default to. You can change, of course, the number of pixels per port, assuming the prop will let you do that. Let me close this. Pierre put in a new enhanced version of check sequence. So previous version, we had what would be more like a text version, even though it was HTML, it was very text oriented. Now it is got a custom style sheet applied to it so that it's got a little snazzy look to it. Should be exactly the same content, but just a snazzy look to it so that you can open and close and view things a little more cleanly, I guess is the right word for that. Thank you, Pierre. And just flip back here. Um, yeah, okay, so that was what I talked about ISPC. So the other feature here that's really a work in progress, probably not worth your time to use it at this point, but Keith is working behind the scenes at trying to implement an AI feature, i.e. a chatgpt feature. There's got a couple of pieces in here that is really just to get things started. It'll be a different video at some point when it's ready for prime time, but it involves a couple of steps. First of all, there's a services panel that you would have to come in here and you'd have to sign in to ChatGPT. It's a paid service. You'd get a secret key that would be, unique to you, and you would put in the secret key. Be sure and hit the enter key to acknowledge that change. You could test your connectivity to make sure that your ChatGPT security key is correctly entered, and it would. I'll just click test. It's going to say I can't find it. At that point, xLights can talk to ChatGPT. And so that's step one. xLights now can talk to ChatGPT. And then the next piece that Keith is working on is you would say import effects. And I would go back to this one, and maybe I'm going to choose like Cotton Eye Joe, for example. And that's fine. It's at 40 frames per second. There's a new button here that would be enabled if you have a secret key, i.e. you can talk to ChatGPT, that would send an AI map. So it's going to try and map all these models and groups and such over to this. It's really not worth demonstrating at this point. Feel free to give it a shot. Remember, it's a paid service, so you're going to have to purchase some credits, some tokens on ChatGPT to make it work. but it's really the first generation. It's only been a couple of commits, i.e., a couple of test scenarios that have made it into the code. But that look for something more on this in the future. It's still a work in progress. I'm going to click AI map. No, it won't work anyway because I don't have the credits and I don't have it hooked up. I'm assuming it's going to, yeah, it's not going to be able to do anything. So that's what is there. This will be grayed out for you unless you have the preferences set, and the preferences are really of only value if you've signed up for the ChatGPT service. So that's what it is. It's really just a little bit of a teaser right now because it's not ready for use, but it's there for you if you're into tinkering, that sort of thing. Anyway, so that's 2025.03. Remember that if you're running a version of 2024 from anything prior to midsummer, you have to go to xlights.org to download it. I don't believe at the time I created this video that it's quite yet on xlights.org. Expected in the next 24 hours or so. It should be showing up there. But really, the fix, the reason for O3 coming out right now is to correct a couple of uh, you know, rendering bugs that were impacting people, especially for their February Valentine's shows and such. Um, a reminder that xLights Gems are on Wednesday nights in the Zoom room at 8 p.m. They've kicked off the introduction series right now, so the next couple of weeks are just introduction classes. We're building out the schedule, so keep an eye on that. If you want to know which classes are coming up, be sure to check the official xLights support group and look under the events section in Facebook, and you can sign up to be reminded and such so that you know what's coming up. And come on out and watch out. Remember that we will be posting those videos, those sessions on the xLights Gem where you're seeing this video here. So be sure to like and subscribe and all the rest of that jazz. Hope this is helpful for you, and thanks a bunch, and see you later in the Zoom room.